In a work world, what difference will one day make? The earth won't alter its course. Cats and dogs will be cats and dogs. Rain will still fall from the sky. So take time for Sunday. Just know that your truck has a little thing for Monday.
I get to this story on this Sunday morning. Pope Francis has been sick. He's been a bit ill. He's a lot better, and he was just recently in southern Italy speaking to an agricultural community that was, unemployment is sky high there. And he said, of course, the poor need to have jobs, and that's going to make them feel better about themselves. But the most important thing in life, anyway, is your relationships and your friends and your family, and obviously praising the Lord. And he says, is working on Sundays true freedom, and basically says, all of this hard work that people are doing on the weekends, on Sundays, is having a negative impact on their lives.
It's so easy to let just work seep in. I mean, if you're home on the weekend and you have, job Monday through Friday, and I'm just going to get some work done, I'm going to go down to my office, do some work, I'm going to get this done, then you don't realize then what it's taking away from that day of rest, that day of family, and that hour, that 2 hours just starts to snowball, and I think he has a great point.
Well, of course he does. I mean, Judaism takes this very seriously. Orthodox Jews do not mess around, and I admire this so much, about the Sabbath. Mm-hmm. And again, you see this in the Old and New Testaments. Keep the Sabbath holy. Don't work. It's almost like people, it's baked in, have always had this temptation to let work crowd out all the other things that matter. Family, faith, and they have to be told again and again, knock it off, don't work. It's interesting. You think people are lazy?
Probably we should be debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday.
Most businesses were closed on Sundays in the U.S., but for many decades, shopping on Sundays has become the norm here. However, in Greece, it remains a major point of contention, pitting religious tradition against recent economic realities. Special correspondent Malcolm Brabant reports.
In Piraeus, Greece's main port city, the churches are filled to bursting point as Orthodox Christians maintain traditions handed down the generations. Here, Sundays are for devotions to the saints, not for worshipping at the altar of profit. The city's bishop has condemned Sunday shopping as an act of war with the church. But in St. Evangelistras, Father Yorgos Yogakopoulos is more measured.
We are of the opinion, from a religious point of view, that the sixth day of the week is provided to man for communication with God, but also that attempts are being made to get rid of what we know as normal life, to try and turn us into robots and machines by making all the days the same, every day a working day, all days without meaning.
Sunday has been enshrined in law as a day of rest here in France for more than 100 years. And for some, at the heart of this debate about working hours is the impact any change might have on family life.
I think it's important that people have a day where they can all meet, because it's very complicated to get together otherwise.
There are other things to do on a Sunday when you're with your family, other than hang around in shops. But my personal opinion is that people should have a choice to work if they want.
Some French unions, though, are keen to keep the ban on Sunday trading in place and have taken legal action to prevent businesses from opening. The unions want to preserve Sunday as a day of rest and relaxation in France.
Wierzę w to, że w ten sposób przywracamy normalność. Wierzę w to, że po prostu przyzwyczaimy się do tego, tak jak jest w innych krajach Unii Europejskiej, tak jak jest w Niemczech czy w Austrii, że po prostu sklepy są zamknięte w niedzielę.
The government will introduce a ban on Sunday shopping in large commercial centers by the end of this year. The reason? The Italian government feels that shopping on weekends is destroying family traditions and creating distance between family members. Deputy Prime Minister said, and I quote, "This liberalization is in fact destroying Italian families. We need to start limiting opening and closing times again," unquote. Larger stores have been ordered to close on national holidays as well. This comes as a big U-turn by the Italian government. In 2012, the government had liberalized Sunday trading in a bid to spur economic growth. This despite pressure from the Roman Catholic Church and unions to mark Sunday as a traditional rest day.
Do we really want to live without a Sunday, without a day where we don't work? Many workers nowadays don't have a choice, with all the consequences for their families and their private life at large. Europa, the European Services Workers Union, demands of the new European Parliament and the new European Commission to make a difference, to have legislation that people do not need to work on Sundays. Get involved. Send in your video messages and your picture messages. Let's keep Sundays special for all.
I arrived in Tonga this morning and I get off the plane, I get in a cab, I go to my hotel, and everything just feels off. Something's really weird, and I realize that nobody's outside. All the shops are closed. It almost felt like a ghost town, and it was really eerie. And I was in the taxi ride like thinking, where am I? Am I on Mars? Like nobody is around. I wondered if there was a natural disaster, or maybe someone important passed away and they are all in mourning. I'm walking down the main street here in the capital of Tonga, and there is just nothing happening. It's so quiet out here. But after speaking with a few locals, I realized that today is Sunday, and Tonga is the world's only country that actually doesn't open up on Sundays. On Sundays, everything's closed, right?
Everything is closed.
When the king of Tonga was baptized a Christian, he said he ruled that Sunday everybody's to have their rest. It's also part of the upbringing. You're brought up not to do anything on Sundays.
It is illegal to work, unless, of course, you work in a hospital or police station. So we're pulling up by the airport right now, and it is completely closed.
The airport is closed.
You can get fined or even thrown in jail if you are seen working in public, as it is written in their constitution. You're not allowed to do any chores or play loud music. It's a day of rest.
On Sundays, Tongans only do three things. Lotu, kai, mohe. We only go to church, and we eat, and we sleep.
Tongans are quite religious people, similar to their Pacific Island neighbors. Over 97% of people here are Catholic and are strict churchgoers. You can find about 3 churches on every corner in this town, and the only sounds you can hear on the streets are church bells and prayers.
It is the night before Christmas, and we're going to begin with an unusual look at one of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. A chicken restaurant might seem like a surprising way to explore the meaning of this biblical edict, but the folks at Chick-fil-A believe an important ingredient in their recipe for success is faith. And that means that each week when Sunday arrives, the doors close.
The bipartisan bill to repeal North Dakota's blue laws failed earlier this week in the Senate by 3 votes. But what's drawing new attention? The comments made by some senators regarding religion and their justification for voting against the repeal. One even talking at length about atheism, then creationism. So what does this have to do with opening a store earlier on a Sunday? Valley News Team's Christine Stanwood took to the streets to find out what you think.
North Dakota Senator Dick Dever voted no on the Sunday blue law. But before voting no, Dever decided to go on a nearly 8-minute speech.
Atheists believe there is no God.
So what does this have to do with the Sunday blue laws?
If you were to Google humanism, you might come to their website where they talk about separation of church and state and their efforts to the value of Sunday morning is not in the profits that roll through the cash registers. The value of Sunday mornings is in the time.
So what does Sunday mean to Senator Dever?
The time to reflect on the many blessings that we have been bestowed on us as a country, and yes, to be grateful to the one who did that. I'm voting no.
These holy laws, they're also called blue laws, and what they're originally designed to do is to enforce religious standards in the United States. Now, blue laws have been challenged throughout the history of the country. Most recently, in 1961, under McGowan versus Maryland, it was found that blue laws are actually not unconstitutional. So you can still enforce blue laws, and plenty of states do that, like you mentioned with the alcohol ban. Certain states you can't sell groceries, but I mean, a lot of these standards that are not these crazy-sounding laws exist to kind of preserve a day of rest. The Sabbath, the Sunday, not for people to go to church necessarily, but for there to be a kind of standardized day for people to...
They're called blue laws, and they limit shopping on items from booze to Buicks. More than a dozen states have laws restricting alcohol sales on Sundays, with 3, including Georgia, banning liquor store sales altogether. In several states and counties, you can't buy a car on Sundays. Dealerships must be closed. In most counties in South Carolina, retail outlets can't open before 1:30 on a Sunday unless they're selling necessary items like food or fuel. It's based on a centuries-old Christian concept brought over to this country in colonial times.
Early, particularly statewide blue laws, actually referenced the fact that, you were not to profane the Lord on the Lord's day, and that you went to church on Sundays. There would be no other work permitted on Sunday.
Good evening, my name is Kacper Paradowski and you're watching Poland Daily News. From 2020, the trade ban will apply on all Sundays, with the exception of 7 a year. This will include 2 consecutive Sundays preceding Christmas, 1 before Easter, and 4 additionally, the last Sunday of January, April, June and August. The trade ban does not apply to shops in which the owners themselves will conduct the sales. Other places exempted from the ban are bakeries, ice cream shops, gas stations, as well as places of service, such as hotels, sports and tourism centres.
And therefore, when these things open back up on the 1st of March, it will be business from Monday to Saturday, but there will be no commerce in the supermarkets on Sunday. We feel that the workers there and the persons who are monitoring, and I ask Bajans to think about the people who have to work as monitors, who have to work in enforcement, who have to work in the supermarkets. They're under pressure too. And let them have Sunday as the day of rest while we fight this out.
You've taken me back to hours for supermarkets, and I did say at the beginning that we're 99% of where we need to be in terms of the directive, and I'm being reminded that in yesterday's press statement, the Prime Minister insisted that on the 7th day shall they rest. Therefore, the directive will reflect that on Sunday, supermarkets, mini-marts, and those other establishments will be closed.
And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.